During the dawn of 3D gaming, the Nintendo 64 had a tall order to fill when it came to constructing its large and diverse universes. This included not only transitioning old franchises into a fully realized new dimension, but introducing a cast of new heroes navigating through worlds of their own. Rather than take the level-by-level approach, which was commonplace in games from the previous eras, many of these advanced 3D games introduced sub-areas which connected all of the other levels together. These are known as hub worlds, which oftentimes ended up being equally as memorable as the worlds they connected together. Out of the many 64-bit hub worlds which existed on this system, which ones were the most fun to traverse through and thematically represent the games in which they appeared? I'm Kyle with 1UP Binge, and this is Nintendo 64 Hub Worlds Worst to Best. Before we start our list, let's establish a ground rule. For the sake of this list, we're only going to be looking at these hub worlds pertaining to the Nintendo 64 versions of these games. Any changes that may have been made in remakes, ports, or cross-platform releases will not be taken into account. With that said, let's warp into these hub worlds, starting from the worst and working our way up to the best. At the very bottom of our list, we have the Media Dimension from Gex 64, Enter the Gecko. In the lore of the Gex universe, the Media Dimension is another world existing within television sets in which TV shows and movie characters spring to life and fight Gex. While the Media Dimension technically existed within Gex's first adventure, it got a complete design overhaul for Gex's first 3D outing, now featuring Roman-style architecture and statues of Gex himself. While the concept of the Media Dimension is quite novel, the actual area in this game is pretty ugly, barren, and full of Nintendo 64 fog. All areas within the Media Dimension look pretty similar, so it can be pretty easy to get lost in this area as well. Since the concept of the Media Dimension is actually from the first Gex game and not this one, we can't really give Gex 64 any brownie points for coming up with a creative idea either. One of the more bizarre areas on our countdown, Jim's Subconscious from Earthworm Jim 3D, comes into our next spot. In Earthworm Jim's only 3D outing, the courageous hero falls into a coma after being crushed by a falling cow. This causes Jim to enter his subconscious, wherein lie the 4 chambers of his mind. Throughout the game, Jim will enter each of these chambers and defeat the supervillains inside in order to wake up from his coma. It makes about as much sense in context. The reason why it ranks so low on our list is because Jim's Subconscious is essentially a great idea with poor execution. The hub world is extremely small and doesn't contain anything important to Jim's adventure. There are some nice touches like being able to look through Jim's eyes at Pete, but these are inconsequential novelties. Jim's Subconscious is at least visually interesting and too small to get lost in, which gives it an edge over the Media Dimension. But neither hub world offer much in terms of variety for the player. Moving on to the Crystal Castle grounds from Glover. This castle is located within the Crystal Kingdom, and the magical crystals within the castle are the source of the kingdom's power. When the wizard who protects them has an accident and scatters them into nearby warps, Glover must gather the crystals in order to restore balance to the kingdom. The hub world of the Crystal Castle grounds is not that exciting in itself. There are a few enemies to fight here and there, but those are minor nuisances and don't offer much more than a brief distraction as the player travels from one world to the next. On top of that, the Crystal Castle grounds is pretty small and doesn't have any cool areas to explore within. The grounds would probably rank at the bottom of this list if it wasn't for one cool aesthetic choice. Every time Glover gathers a crystal, the Crystal Castle grounds will slowly become greener and full of life. This gives a sense of progression to the game and makes the hub world more visually stimulating every time Glover returns to it, which was actually pretty novel for a hub world on the Nintendo 64. Moving on to Hyrule Field from The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Clearly one of the most iconic hub worlds in any game, Nintendo 64 or otherwise. Hyrule Field actually may surprise some of you for not being super high on our list. A lot of the praise that Hyrule Field has received is well deserved, with amazingly triumphant music, a few holes here and there which are worth exploring, and an amazing expansive landscape which was breathtaking to look at for its time. With all that said, the reason Hyrule Fields ranks somewhat lower on our list is because, compared to many other hub worlds even at the time, there isn't a whole lot going on in this grassy plain. with the exception of a few great cutscenes and the initial wow factor of entering the area for the first time. Hyrule Field is pretty barren with not much to do other than fighting enemies at night. Also, since the drawbridge to Hyrule Castle is raised at nighttime, this could mean that the player could be stuck outside until morning fighting skeletons, while waiting for an opportunity to enter the castle town. Hyrule Field is undoubtedly an iconic area that is remembered fondly by many Nintendo 64 players. But in terms of what it offers the player, it's not the most creative or interesting hub world on the console. They say no man is an island, but in the case of DK Isle from Donkey Kong 64, the head of a gorilla sure is. The DK Isles have appeared in many Donkey Kong games, most notably the Donkey Kong Country series. But Donkey Kong 64 is where the island looks the most like, well, Donkey Kong. DK Isle did somewhat resemble the Big Ape's head on the Super Nintendo, but in this game, the features are much more distinctive. This raises a lot of questions. Was this island a man, or monkey-made structure, or did Mother Nature construct this bizarre piece of land herself? Either way, DK Isles is a fun area to explore, as are the other islands and structures that surround it. This includes the Banana Fairies Island and King K. Rool's Mobile Island Fortress. While DK Isle and the Mobile Island Fortress make for really fun areas to explore and climb, we do have to knock this hub world down a few points since, much like Hyrule Fields, the area is expansive but somewhat barren, and the novelty of exploring it only lasts for some time. The game even kind of admits this by giving the characters numbered banana port pads to fast travel to the entrances of levels, rather than waste their time climbing to the same area over and over again. Still, there are some highlights in this hub world, and it's very impressive with its size and scope, which makes up for many of its shortcomings. We return once again to the Media Dimension, this time found in Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko. In this game, Gex enters the Media Dimension via the use of a shortcut found in the Gex Cave. This game actually has 4 hub worlds connected to each other. These 4 hubs are known as Mission Control, Lake Flaccid, Slappy Valley, and Funky Town. Gex 3 seemingly has learned from the mistakes of its predecessor and includes a very fun, visually dynamic hub world with a lot more to do. In contrast to the previous Gex game, this Media Dimension includes enemies for the protagonist to fight, as well as items to collect and areas to explore. Each of the 4 hubs has a different visual aesthetic, which tie in nicely to the worlds they contain. The large labyrinth-style sections of the hub world does still make it possible to get lost in the Media Dimension, but the lack of excessive fog and variety in its visuals make things much less of a chore. It may not be the ideal location to find yourself after a hangover, but Windy from Conker's Bad Fur Day does make for a pretty decent hub world. Technically speaking, Windy is a chapter in the game, making it closer to an actual level than most of the other hub worlds on our list. Windy contains a lot of great characters and locations found in Conker's Bad Fur Day, including Mrs. Queen Bee, Pooh Mountain, and the windmill which Rodent crashes into later in the game. Visually speaking, Windy is probably the best looking hub world on the Nintendo 64, due to Conker arguably being the best looking game on the system. Also, we get to see the progression of Windy throughout the day, and see how the area changes with the progressing events. One of the funniest Easter eggs in the game is when we see Mrs. Queen Bee's dead body crushed by the windmill after Rodent knocks it over. Much like every level in Conker's Bad Fur Day, Windy is brimming with personality and humor, even if most of the main events that occur there happen early in the game. Again, we enter the subconscious realm to reach Dreamland from 40 Winks. The latest game to be released on this list, 40 Winks was originally a PlayStation exclusive back in 1999, when the Nintendo 64 got cancelled at the last minute. Pico Interactive eventually did release the Nintendo 64 version 20 years later, thus making it a contender in our countdown. When Ruff and Tumble, the 2 protagonists of this game, fall asleep, they enter a hub world which resembles their own home. However, in Dreamland, they're guided by a sentient clock named Wakey Wakey, who guides them to the 6 worlds within Dreamland. These worlds are Nightmare World, Water World, Space World, Prehistoric World, Medieval World, and Pirate World, all of which have their own hub worlds too. We really like the themes of these hub worlds and how they add visual variety to the game. There are also certain characters to speak to, mostly flying creatures who will challenge the player to a race if Ruff or Tumble hits them twice. It may not be the most interactive hub world, but Dreamland has enough going for it visually to make us happy to return to it between levels. Moving on to Whoopee World from Rocket Robot on Wheels. One of the most underrated platformers on the Nintendo 64, Rocket Robot on Wheels features the titular robot traveling around a futuristic theme park to save the park's mascot Whoopi the Walrus from the clutches of the envious raccoon Jojo. Rocket then travels around the different areas of the park, collecting stolen tickets in order to pass gates and catch up to Jojo. Like any of the regular levels, the hub world of this game contains hidden tickets for Rocket to find, leading for some fun exploration and minigames to complete. In certain areas of Whoopee World, Rocket can meet up with the park's maintenance robot, Tinker, who upgrades Rocket with new moves. This ensures that this hub world becomes more interesting as the player progresses and learns new platforming skills throughout the game. Whoopee World itself doesn't resemble a theme park very much, but it is visually striking and fun for the player to traverse through. While Hyrule Field in retrospect is a little barren and empty, Termina Field from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask has a lot more going for it. Players can argue all day about whether Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask is the superior game, but one advantage we feel the latter entry has is the use of a superior hub world. Link first explores Termina Fields once he reclaims his human form and exits Clock Tower. Being that Clock Tower is in the middle of Termina Field, Link can exit the town from north, south, east, or west, depending on which area the player is heading. Termina Field has many special items and areas to find, giving the player a lot of variety. Link's visit to Termina Field can be a brief excursion before his main destination, or a lengthy journey of discovery based on how the player wants to spend their 3-day cycle. It may not reach the scale or scope of more contemporary Zelda maps, but out of the two entries of this series on the Nintendo 64, this is the more engaging area. Finally, we jump into the earliest and most iconic hub world on the list, Peach's Castle from Super Mario 64. If you really think about it, Peach has always been found at the end of Bowser's Castle in Mario's previous adventures, making Super Mario 64 the long-awaited exploration of the princess's own turf. What we found inside of Peach's now iconic home was a bunch of mostly empty rooms with paintings in them, and for the time, it was awesome. Many of the paintings in Peach's Castle are actually warps to faraway lands containing the castle's power stars. It's unclear how exactly the paintings work since other paintings in Peach's Castle don't have this ability, and are more or less there for decoration. Besides the paintings, Peach's Castle also contains a ghost-filled garden, a moat which is controlled by 2 panels, and a cannon that can shoot Mario up onto the roof. Unlike Bowser's many castles, which have been seen to change in shape and size over different games, Peach's iconic castle found in this game set a standard for the structure which most subsequent Mario games followed. This includes Paper Mario, Mario Kart 64, and even Super Mario Odyssey, which recreated this hub world as a single level in that game. The ripple effect of this hub world is still being felt in games today, making Peach's Castle arguably the most significant one on the list. Sailing back into island territory, Timbers Island from Diddy Kong Racing drives into our next entry. While kart racers aren't typically the genre you would expect to find great and iconic hub worlds, Diddy Kong Racing sure made this an exception. Diddy Kong Racing's adventure mode is often considered to be the most memorable part of the game, and a big part of this has to do with how fun it is to travel around Timbers Island. After Taj the Genie turns the racer's vehicle into a car, hovercraft, or plane, depending on preference, Diddy Kong and his pals can explore the island, find hidden balloons, and even race Taj around the island. In our opinion, the island is most fun to explore on plane, since it allows the players to reach high up areas inaccessible with the use of the other vehicles. The only reason Timbers Island narrowly misses out from our top 3 is that the area is pretty small, and there's not much to do after having discovered every hidden balloon. Still, Timbers Island is a surprisingly intricate hub world, and set a standard for hub worlds to be eventually used in kart games thereafter. The bronze medal of Best Hub World goes to the highest ranking island on our list, the Isle of Hags from Banjo-Tooie. While Banjo and Kazooie's first adventure explored a bit of their homeland with Spiral Mountain, the sequel expands on this by showing us the area outside of the seemingly peaceful mountain range. The result is the Isle of Hags, a rough and somewhat dangerous area with many different characters and features. The Isle of Hags expands a lot on the homes of the characters found in the first game. We get to explore Bottle's Molehill, Jinjo Village, and even Mumbo's Mountain, all of which were not seen in the Baron Bird's original adventure. The hub world in this game is the countryside of the island itself, with the levels being different areas of the island. As much as we love the magical warp magic found in Peach's Castle or the DK Isles, the Isle of Hags manages to feel more connected between its hub worlds and levels, which enhances the level of immersion. It helps all the worlds feel interconnected, especially since many of the levels in Banjo-Tooie feature overlapping elements that carry over into the hub world. Some may say it's too big for its own good, but the level of immersion the Isle of Hags has puts it a step above many of the other hub worlds in the system. Super Mario 64 may have set the standards for 3D gaming and exploration. However, Toad Town from Paper Mario offered the overall better hub world experience, which is why it nabs the silver medal. The idea of a town full of toads was first explored in Super Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo. Paper Mario expanded on this idea even further in creating Toad Town, a small residential area located in front of Peach's Castle. While not exactly a large town, Toad Town offers many interesting characters and activities for Mario to interact with. The residents of Toad Town can be found helping Mario with baking, telling him his fortune, and selling him badges and items, among other things. The Toads see Mario as a hero and are always very welcoming when the iconic plumber barges into their homes unannounced. Toad Town is also the first time in the series where we see the female counterpart to the Toads, the Toadettes. And its wide variety of things to do, fun music, and entertaining characters elevate Toad Town to achieving the silver medal. Finally, the gold medal for Best Nintendo 64 Hub World has to go to Gruntilda's Lair from Banjo-Kazooie. When Banjo's sister, Tooty, is captured by the evil Grunty, Banjo enters a cave shaped like the witch's face. The interior of the cave is revealed to be a dark place filled with enemies, magically sealed doors, warping cauldrons, puzzles, and entrances to the game's many worlds. The reason we're giving this hub world our top spot is because we feel it excels at everything a hub world should. Not only is it one of the most iconic hub worlds on the Nintendo 64, but it's also the most fun in our opinion, featuring plenty of puzzles and characters for the player to discover and interact with. Peach's Castle laid the groundwork for a large interior hub world, and Gruntilda's Lair takes what Super Mario 64 accomplished and turns it up to 11. As far as atmosphere, Gruntilda's Lair is extremely engaging. The music is dark, treacherous, and moody, and we really love how it changes to different instruments when approaching a level. Gruntilda's consistent laughing and taunting of the player does a great job of building up the witch for the final confrontation at the end of the game. This hub may not be the most appealing place to live, but it sure makes for one entertaining area to explore, which is why it's totally worthy of the gold medal. But let us know in the comments section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what your favorite hub world was on the Nintendo 64. And if you need a one-up, make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our other gaming videos. Thanks for watching.